This is Dan. Welcome to the edition of the Skull Sessions. And today my guest is Jason DeQuino. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, so what's going on, man?
Hey, not much. I'm just sitting here drawing, watching Escape from New York, doing what I do.
Yeah, it's a classic movie. The sequel wasn't that good, but the original, good.
Yeah, and it's got Adrian Barbeau, so that's good.
And do you remember the sequel had like this horrible CGI scene where like looks like an arcade game?
Yeah, it was pretty silly, but whatever.
Pretty bad. But all right, man. So, apparently you ran like a gallery back in what, in Miami, Florida?
Actually, the gallery I was involved with was down in New Orleans.
Okay.
That was the first entity of the gallery, and then the second entity I was involved with also because it changed hands through a bunch of silly people doing illegal stuff. And it was like closed down and then reopened in the same location and then closed down and reopened again thanks to COVID. But yeah,
Okay.
that was an interesting time. That whole area um, just kind of operates on tourist traffic. So when COVID happened, all of the cruise ships stopped coming in, and then all of the restaurants and bars stopped being allowed to have clients congregate. I mean, I don't know how you continue to have a bar or restaurant when you're not allowed to have people come together. So basically, if you've ever been to the French Quarter, there's a huge population of like buskers and street performers, singers, poets, musicians, and they would depend on that walking traffic of the tourists to make their money. Some of them just to make money for food and drink, some of them for other habits. So when those tourists weren't there, those buskers became like aggressive and they were no longer like friendly, smiling beggars across the street and you were in trouble. Not to mention that when they closed down the cafes and restaurants, those people had no place to wash or poop. So you can imagine it got nasty. But yeah, we held out during COVID as long as possible and then skipped town.
Yeah, I like how during COVID, that, like, you still had to pay the rent. The shop still had to pay the rent, but you couldn't make money.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. There was a moratorium on landlords evicting people. So literally
Okay.
not allowed to evict people, but essentially what happens is your landlord just starts going, so are you going to pay the rent? And it's like, well, I guess not. The relationship can become somewhat contentious when that's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember my landlord was like, told everyone else just pay what you can. And told me like pay the exact same amount. Like
yeah,
a couple of people they said pay the exact amount, but most people they're like, yeah, whatever you can.
because they didn't want to lose anybody. He sized you up. He knew you were going to pay it. So he told you, you do not get rewarded for being legit. Like you wind up pulling extra weight.
Yeah,
But
that's probably what it was. Um, so all right, so what was it? I know you did like these matchbook miniatures, but they were like super detailed, but on matchbook covers. What started that?
um, at the time, I was living in Kingston, New York, with a couple friends that I went to college with. And one of them was a sculptor, and he got a job at a jeweler called Kretschmer's, where he was cutting seats for diamonds and like little rings and whatnot. And he's wearing these optivisors, like high magnification jeweler's glasses, to cut the seats for the stones and platinum rings. So he took them home one day, and I tried them on. And I wanted to see how small I could render. Started out like postage stamp size, but then I realized that when you blew that up to 2 foot or so, it didn't hold the integrity of the details. So I didn't want it to be like some stupid magic trick. I wanted just a different scale to work at. I wanted to do something that was going to maintain the integrity when you blew it up. So I settled on like the 1 inch by 1 inch matchbook size. Like at that size, I could render something that still looked good when you made it poster size. Um, and at the time, it's like people started to mess around with like Photoshop and like computer stuff. I know that sounds like antique now, like with AI and. But people were cheating. So I was like, all right, well, let's see you cheat at this scale. You know what I mean? It was, I
Right.
just the realm of those people and started working on a different scale. And it was enjoyable. It's like very meditative, because you really can't even breathe when you're making some of those marks because they're so small. So it's like forced meditation, but it's also very taxing.
Do
You know.
you use a magnifying glass?
Yep, I used the 10 times OptiVisor glasses. The focal range was something like 6 to 10 inches. So you're really locked up. You're like working real close like this, and you can't move and you can't breathe. So it's a lot more freeing to do something large. So when I'm relaxing, I'm not trying to work that small.
Yeah, our teacher back in school would make us do everything really big, and I realized like you don't put more work into it actually when you're really big. It's like you do the same thing, but you're more free because you're doing bigger scale.
Yeah, you get to move around. You get to not feel like you're imprisoned by like this little frame. So, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. I love my miniatures. I love the preciousness of that. It's also like finding a clientele that's going to purchase that stuff. Most of my clients were like watch collectors and, people who collected handguns, little machines, little objects that were intricate and like finely crafted. Because who's gonna my miniatures could be a couple $1,000 for something that was like 2 inches, and people would be like, why would I pay that for this when I could pay that for this, for like a big abstract painting? It's like some people didn't understand it. They just wanted something that would match the couch and would fill the space.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of feel like there's a lot of that going on. Like the people who buy like bananas or whatever, like bullshit art, and they're like, yeah, but look how much it cost me, and they talk more about what it costs them than how good it looks.
Well, that was one of the things about doing the art circuit or whatever. You start to realize that most of the buyers, the people who actually matter, whose attention you're after, they go to the art shows to be seen. They want to purchase the most expensive piece and have everyone in the room see them doing it and get their praise and whatever and attention. Or they want to seek out an artist who's young and single that they can pursue by purchasing their work like it was a down payment on their ass or some shit. It's weird. It's a weird social scene, you know.
Did you have a large clientele base for the MacBook covers?
I did. I still have a few like wealthy collectors that I'm doing commission work for, but it's very like, it's more like a personal friendship relationship type thing now. It's not so much through the gallery or anything else. Because I found a lot of those people, the very wealthy ones, to be somewhat creepy.
Go figure. Um, but you had a larger clientele base when the gallery was active.
Yeah, for sure. When I was part of that world, because you're socializing with those people, so they're gonna buy stuff. They come in for that interaction and for that socialization, and like I said, to be seen at the shows and whatnot. So like once you duck out of that, you have to maintain those relationships remotely. It's like talking to a friend who moves out of town. You're not
Right.
gonna.
I kind of feel like that goes a little bit with tattooing as well.
Yeah, for sure. Most definitely. But those people that's like a friendship that you've established too. Those people are spending time with you. There's
Right.
also spending time in an altered state when they're like actually vulnerable and in pain. It's so funny. People will share intimate details of their lives like you're a therapist. They're just
Yeah, something that wouldn't download on you like you're a psychiatrist or something.
yeah, for sure. And
You're like, I did not need to hear your whole story between you, your wife, your side girl, all that sort of stuff. How
yeah,
about
but
we just tattoo you?
you also like when they put you in that spot, you have somewhat of a responsibility to try to say something constructive, positive, or help even relate to the situation. But I try to, or I just try not to talk at all.
Right. So, what made you transition from tattooing or from fine art to tattooing? Or were you always doing both?
I was tattooing right when I got out of school. So it was the first thing. I was apprenticing while I was working at some deli from like 5 a.m. until noon. I'd go to the tattoo shop from 1 to 9, serve my apprenticeship. And then it just seemed like the smartest way to get paid to draw without having an agent or an editor or someone like a gallerist between you and the money. So you want a tattoo, you open up the shop, you hang a shingle, and people walk in, they pay you in cash daily to draw. So it seemed like a great idea. So that's always been kind of a fallback. Trying to do the fine art thing as like a primary source of income is a fantasy. You can deal with it for a little while and then it starts to become like very rocky, you know. So it's not like a dependable, nice 9 to 5. Not that tattooing is either, but at least
Well,
get
it
paid.
used to be. It used to be. It seems like tattooing's gotten a little bit more. I don't know, a little more. The industry died down a little bit. Too many people are fucking, cranking out bullshit. So there's a whole bunch going on. But we don't want to focus too much on the tattoo industry. Let's go back to your art career a little bit. Is there somewhere where people can see what you have out?
Well, right now, I don't have any shows on the slate. So, like right now, no, they can come by and see me at the tattoo shop or they can hit my website, which is just my name. The funny thing is, I've got like a long tail behind me because if you look me up on Google or some shit, like all my images have eventually found their way there. So you can see a bunch of drawings, get an idea of what I do. And anyone who contacts me directly as a collector who wants custom piece, like I work with people one on one. It's funny because I'm back in East Meadow where I grew up, and I want to have a show at the local library. I want to do a very like intimate, small hometown thing that actually means something to me. Because the gallery shows are nice. The prestige is like, oh wow, look, I got a show here. But ultimately, I don't connect to those people the way that I would connect. I grew up in my local library. My uncle was the custodian there. Like I went there like every other day and sat there and just looked at every single book and would draw. Like that's my space. So I want to do something like that. As far as gallery shows, man, I don't even know. If I get back into it with a gallerist that I trust, then maybe I'll put some pieces somewhere. But right now I'm just focused on, making the art, not so much pouring it, you know?
Yeah, I did a couple things. I did like a thing at the Freeport Library and the one of the Long Beach Library, and I kind of figured out you kind of have to do like your own marketing, your own telling everyone about it. 'Cause they promise all this stuff and they don't do shit.
Yeah, no, I'm fine though. I don't necessarily want things to sell from that venue. I want kids to see it and I want people to go, hey, look at that. Like that's kind of
Same here, same here. I just wanted people to attend, but it's
right.
like people don't even know what's going on unless you tell everyone because they say they will, but they don't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's fine. I'll stump it a little bit, make some signs. It'd be like making concert posters from back in the day. That's cool though.
So what were you planning to do with the library? Because like what I did is like I talked about like this is what you can do with your art. This is what's available. This is like these are the different paths you can pursue. So basically, I talked like technical art stuff. What were you planning to do?
I just want to make some things that are fun and put them on the wall. I had a little show at a coffee shop in Belmore recently where the owner was like, "Hey, you got to make something palatable and nice." So like I reproduced the googly-eyed puffy stickers from my sticker book from when I was little, made them foot tall, and now they're like all over the wall at my studio at the tattoo shop. So like that kind of silliness. Like I just want to make something that I enjoy making, put it on the wall, and talk to people if they want to go see it. I don't even know yet. Like the drawing is kind of therapeutic to me, so I just like to loosely create whatever comes to my mind. It makes me feel good in the meantime, and then it comes out better because I'm actually into creating it. You know, so I don't have any plans for like a cohesive body of work. I just want to throw a bunch of stuff to the wall and see what sticks. That whole rigid period of time doing the art basel thing and the gallery thing and all that, like that was great for what it was worth, but like I'm on downtime right now, so I'm making for me again. So we'll see.
Yeah, I noticed that art is really like a shot in the dark. Like there are a few people that make it and they make it big, but there's a lot of people that are like really good. They just never make anything off of it. Like I wanted to be a comic artist, and I moved to New York City to be a comic artist. And a lot of the people I looked up to, I've now interviewed on the podcast, and they're art teachers. Like DC and Marvel kept all the rights. So it's like, they put out this legendary stuff, but they own absolutely no rights to it.
Yeah, that's a problem with contract law. That's also a predatory problem with the notion that, and it's the same in the gallery world too, that the artist is not appreciated because there's someone right behind you who wants to take your spot, and there's a dozen people behind them waiting to take their spot. So artists are a dime a dozen. And what I found over the years dealing with different galleries is that a lot of times it's just a Ponzi scheme. Gallerist can't make the rent and make his business profitable and still be able to go out and wine and dine and wear a Patek Philippe watch and do all this dumb shit. So they'll sell some stuff and then they'll pay one artist with the last show's profits, and the other artist is waiting to get paid until the next show makes profit, and eventually the whole thing collapses, and then they just skip town like a bunch of jerk offs and do it again in another state.
It's
You
an
know,
elaborate pyramid scheme, and they just like keep paying off the last income.
yep, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and then they just bounce. You know,
Great.
I've seen three different galleries I work with do the exact same thing, and most of them are just like sons and daughters of wealthy parents who need to have a business on paper so it looks like they're actually doing something, and then they'll build their art collection and write it off. And there it is. They've created their own social circle, by courting young artists and promising them fame and then banging them. And
It's
created
like
a
the music industry.
same. The same
Yeah.
thing with Hollywood, same thing, the casting couch.
Yeah.
It's like when you really want to make something good, it's really not even about the money. Like when you get locked in to a show and then from that you succeed and you get another show and another show, well, congratulations, because you just worked your ass off on the one. Now you got to do twice as much for the next two. Like, be careful what you wish for. It was when you make your passion like your source of income, something gets lost.
Please like and subscribe before she kills again.
It's like taking spirituality and whoring it out. It's not special anymore because you're dismembering it and selling it. You killed it.
I
But
noticed another thing that's really big in the I don't know, the like highfalutin our world is like if you do something and you get paid for it, you're not an artist. You're just an illustrator. So
yeah,
like H.R. Geiger, like famous artist, and then Ridley Scott picked up one of his paintings he used as a basis for the movie Alien, and suddenly they demoted him. So now he's just an illustrator because they happened to use his designs for something that made money.
yeah, okay. He was an illustrator, like Mike and like Raphael. Like, they were illustrators. They were illustrators because they had someone with money paying them to create commissioned works. So all those saints and angels and Sistine Chapel and all that
Oh
crap.
yeah, like Caravaggio and all that stuff. It's like, of
Yeah,
course, they had wealthy sponsors.
yeah, they're just an illustrator though. There's nothing.
Well, no, you're an illustrator if you're like Frazetta or like, anybody that's like a really good artist but does stuff for like books or magazines or like, bands. Like if it's something that has any sort of commercial potential, it gets denoted down to like now it's like you're just working for hire. You're not, there's nothing original about it.
Yeah, but the only people who actually say that shit are jealous people who can't do that type of thing themselves. If you want to like degrade someone like Frazetta and say, oh, or Bernie writes in and say, oh yeah, we're just illustrators. It's like, yeah, okay, sure. Like, let me see you create something with 1/10 the genius that they created. Throwaway illustrations for. It just means they were getting paid. It means they were making a living on what they do. But I don't know. I don't know that I wish I could still do illustration work. I wish AI didn't come along and sweep up all those jobs. It doesn't even make sense to pay an illustrator anymore when you could pay for a subscription to a platform that's just going to barf out garbage. You know, you get the job done for 1/10 of what it would take to pay an illustrator. We were already getting paid garbage for that
Shit. Yeah.
work, and it's not even viable. I just think
They always make a billion excuses on, oh, well, I had to do this, I had to do this. Okay, I'll pay you at this date. No, no, wait, I'm going to pay you later. Like, yeah, there's
it's
always like some long chain of misery that has nothing to do with you paying your fucking bills.
no, it's not valued as a commodity, and people can't appreciate what the difference between like a bad piece of art and a good piece of art. So yeah, doing it for your main source of income is kind of silly. But what we do tattooing, we're being paid because we can put that on skin. We're not being
Right.
paid else. It's because you can put that on skin. That's why you're being paid. Because drawing, I mean, most tattooists that I know who are working nowadays don't even use paper. Like they don't draw anymore. Nobody does that. It's like the computer tablets and now the AI is like what calculators were to math. Like people lost their ability to do that stuff because they didn't need to anymore. They just pull
Right.
out hit a few buttons and it's done. Why should I learn to do that? Without realizing that that's the basis of everything. Like knowing how to add and subtract and multiply means knowing how to buy stuff, pay for stuff, to trade, to lay out any number of sculptural or construction plans. Like you can't do anything if you can't do math. And now people can't draw. So it's like, all right, see what we can.
Yeah, AI is a big problem, and I think like one thing I focused on with my apprentices was like this is what they did to me in art school. So light and shade, like wrinkles and drapery, like dynamic anatomy, like perspective, all the stuff that seems like a lot of people they don't even look at anymore. They just go, what's the image on Google? All right, I'll use that.
Yeah, it's just about reproducing something. And people bring something in and you slap it on skin and you do a competent job.
Up
Ace.
now Pinterest. Everyone loves Pinterest. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is. And like when you tell people, well, if it's on Pinterest, probably 100 people at least have it. They're like, really? Like, what do you fucking think?
There's also, I don't know if you've experienced this or not, but I experienced it more than twice because I'm noting it and looking for it now. When people want to get a tattoo, they'll hop on one of these AI platforms and they'll give a vocal prompt and they'll make a request of the platform to create an image for them. I'll give you an example. One guy wanted to have a tattoo of a compass, north, south, east, and west. Simple request, right? And he wound up bringing in an image of a compass, and the north, south, east, and west needles were tattoo needle cartridges.
Although that is kind of cool. I mean,
But
he probably didn't expect that, but it's kind of cool.
he didn't know that. He didn't know
Yeah.
that act used the question with the subject matter. And I've seen it more than once. I had another design someone came in where it was three crosses on like the Pontius Pilate or whatever, with religious thing, and at the ground level there was a tattoo needle. And I'm like, is I don't understand what I'm looking at. And when I finally got to ask him, it was a chat GPT generated tattoo image. And the word tattoo through the platform got confused with the subject matter and they injected tattoo instruments into the image. And it's the most bizarre thing. And people come in and they don't know. They don't even realize what they're bringing. This is what I want. I made it. It's like, you made it? Cool.
Wait, so they ask for a subject and then they throw in the word tattoo and ChatGPT like mixes it all up.
Yep. Yep. And they wind up injecting equipment into the imagery. And it's the strangest thing. And to have someone come in claiming that they created something and then it has that in it and they don't know that it's there. It's like, what a world, man. Like you're permanently committing to skin something that you're not even aware what it contains. Like how strange.
I feel like this kind of the same as like the people that get the kanji. You probably remember this. They get kanjis and it wouldn't say what they thought it said.
Yeah, no doubt. We had a Chinese restaurant down the block and kids would come in. Oh, I asked the guy at the restaurant. I'm like, are you kidding me? He's one of his favorite things is sending people down here with tattoos that say asshole or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
and
I
it's
would
fun.
tell people, I was like, get it written out at one restaurant, go to another restaurant, ask them what it says. There's a guy in Queens, I think, they did like 35 times before he finally got arrested for it. And like
I would,
people would say, "Oh, princess," and like tattooed dirty whore on them.
yeah, we need to break the restaurant chain there. I don't best kanji. Yeah, trends are so weird though, man. Like the trends what were back in the day, like tribal stuff, kanji stuff, you know,
Armbands,
armband, arm,
armband,
or
barbed wire, wizards.
and now it's like fine line everything. Like people who have no concept that the longevity of their tattoo is like a big old
That's what I'm gonna say. Is like I've noticed all this stuff that's really popular now is all this like super fine line stuff that anybody that's tattooed for like 5 years or more is like that will not hold up.
yeah. I mean, you can explain that to people a million times, but I don't have too big a problem with the fine line stuff because down the road it makes for a great cover up. There's
It's true, yeah. Well,
really
they'll get all over. So I'm like, all right, that's gonna be a pretty extensive cover up there.
yeah, but it's also easy to cover. By the fact that it's so frail. So it is what it is, man. It's such a
But
weird.
I've noticed people have gone back to using singles a lot. Like
Yeah,
they'll like water it down a little bit so they can do like very fine lines that don't blow out. But it's like that's not gonna hold up.
look, some people are very, very good at putting it in. It's like, Anil Gupta back in the day, the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
tiny shit. His stuff held up a little bit, but not
Well,
really.
his like miniature masterpieces, he doesn't even guarantee anymore.
You can't,
Because yeah, because I remember like he'd do them with like a magnifying glass and like all sorts of stuff, and eye loop. And then I remember he did a piece on Carlo. Remember Carlo from Studio Enigma?
yeah, yeah.
So
He,
he did a Last Supper piece on him, the size of a postage stamp, and like after 6 months, it looked like garbage because it all fucking spread. So Carla came back and was like, "I need you to fix this." And if you remember, Carla, he was like very like wannabe gangster. So he pulled that on Neil, I think like 6 times, 7 times. It looked worse every time.
yeah, it's never going to be what it was.
Yeah.
But whatever, everything's temporary. Like people come in, they don't even really care what they want to get. They just want to get a tattoo. They want the
They want something. Yeah.
okay, and I'm not like crazy about something has to be super meaningful. A lot of my tattoos, I just like them because they were fun. I like the way they were illustrated, or I like the character.
Meaningful can be like it means something to you because you like it. It
Exactly.
doesn't. It doesn't have to be like, oh, my daughter almost died and she beat cancer, and that's like ink master stuff,
Yeah.
or,
Well,
or like Miami Ink.
we try to explain to people that it's about personal expression, but they don't understand that something that's truly unique is not going to be quote unquote cool. Like nobody else is going to be like, hey, I like having this. And you're going to be like, well, I'm going to get the same thing. That's the opposite of unique. Having something individual where people are like, huh, I've never seen that before. Like, you know, it's not going to be cool. You have to be comfortable with the fact that it's not cool. It's not. There aren't a bunch of other people who are into it. Like it's okay. Like we're all solitary creatures. Like personal expression is one of a kind. It's unique. It's not a trend. But it's hard to convince people of that kind of thing.
Right. Well, too many people follow the herd, but that's another discussion entirely. All right,
Mm-hmm.
man. So as far as what you have out, you're saying you can see it on your website.
Yep. Just look up my name, jasondequino.com. Yeah, everyone's on socials now too. My socials are just my name. I'm easy to find. It's a hell of a lot easier that way. You can catch me there. And anyone who wants to have any commission work, whether it's a miniature or otherwise, just hit me up. I respond. We'll talk about it. The matchbook stuff generally is somewhere between 1,000 and like 1,800 bucks. Depending on size and intricacy. And
Yeah, I'll put it up on the screen. It looks pretty detailed. I was surprised. I was like, wow, this actually works. Because like a lot of people are like, they do it small, and you're like, yeah, okay.
I try my best to not create something where I can't actually capture the detail. That's like I said, I started out real small and then I settled on the matchbooks. The matchbooks are perfect because it's like a built-in scale reference. Like if you see a photo of a matchbook on the computer screen or in a magazine or whatever, not that magazines are a thing anymore, but when you see a printed image, you know that that's 1 inch by 1 inch just because you're familiar with the matchbook. So if you
Yeah, it's weird they're not. I remember seeing all my stuff in magazines, being so hyped I'm in a magazine. Now nobody gives a fuck.
no, they don't even necessarily believe real. I think there's a certain age, kids that are around like 25 or so right now, they didn't experience that sort of media promotion era. They don't understand that that was merit based and by hustle. They
Right.
think that's paid advertising, or you could just do that. I mean, I suppose you could make a fake magazine right now and just slap it out. I don't know what purpose that would serve, but it was so different back then. Like there was no internet,
Right.
that internet, those publications where we'd go hit the bookstore, weekly and see what was there, but that's how you got
Well,
it.
I remember when you have photos in your portfolio, and like a big thing was like some people would steal your
Oh,
photos.
yeah, Sharpie on it or some shit, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Nah,
I've seized more than one portfolio that had my pictures in their portfolio X mentions. It's
yeah,
happened. It used to be a thing.
that's always a good time. Whatever guys were across town, you'd have to track down your photos. Face missing, like, wait, what was here? You know, uh,
Yeah, yeah. You're like, this wasn't blank. What happened? Yeah. But so do you spend a decent amount of your time like working on artwork that's not tattoo related, and then like you also have days that you work at the shop?
yeah, man. I'm in at the shop every day but Monday and Wednesday, and the rest of the time I try to spend my time drawing or working on some kind of project when I can. Like I try not to waste too much time, but you got to go out and be social, so you can't just sit. Otherwise, I would just be a total like cave dweller and just sit here watching horror movies and drawing. I do that enough though.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but
Man, it's peaceful. Aggression immersion. It makes me feel relaxed.
it's weird too. Like I remember, I mean, I'm old, but I remember when like if you were into horror movies or even like video games or comic books, it's like there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, it was a sign that you had mental problems, which
Right.
I can't necessarily disagree with that. Video, video games, everyone loves video games. You're a bullshitter if you say that there's a problem because you like violent video games. You start to gravitate towards them. You know, you got aggressions that you are addicted to taking out. Now, those things can translate into the real world. So it's possible they have like a little bit of a point there, but like don't ruin my fun.
Don't ruin my fun. Well, that's a good note to end this on. Don't ruin my fun.
Yeah, don't.
But do you have anything else you want to throw out there to the social sphere to tell people to check out? I mean, besides like throw you money and like come get work from you.
Nah, man. Nah, I feel like we covered it. I like I said, come by Wild Child, talk in person, hit me up online, send a message if you want to talk about art, you want to talk about a piece you'd like to see, or just like shoot the shit. I'm available.
I always think it's better too. Like I'm sure you probably feel the same way. If people come and they talk to you about what they want, and the two of you work something out together, rather than they come in and go, "I found this on Pinterest. Looks awesome."
Yeah, it would be nice if more people trusted artists to bring something unique into the world rather than wanting to reproduce something that they found that somebody else had. Half the time, people come in with photos of a tattoo on someone else's skin. And it's like,
Which, of course, you're not going to copy the exact same thing. People are
it's
like, "Why not?" You're like, "Dude, that's called respect."
it's just odd. It's just so strange. But hey, it is what it is, man. People got to see something somewhere in order to decide whether or not they like it. You know,
Right. And not everyone has an imagination, so
that's a weird thing to come to realize, that people don't create, like what do they do with that creative urge? If you don't draw, you don't paint, you don't sculpt, you don't write, what do you do with that? Where does it go? You know, maybe it goes into like a money making part of the brain that I've never accessed.
Maybe, yeah, maybe it's like a lockdown, it's like left brain, right brain, something, where they just lock into mode and that's all they do. I've had people tell me that. They're like, man, I can't draw to save my life. It's like, well, do you have ideas? Do you visualize something?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, I feel like ideas build up and I exercise them by getting them out. So it's useful to me. And then the artwork is the byproduct. You have to force yourself to finalize it, complete it, polish it up, frame it, and all that shit. But like they're basically buying your waste. These are out on paper, you know, and you're buying it. So cool. Sweet.
Okay, man. Well, all right. So people are buying your waste. Well, I know that then. All right. Thank you very much for doing this, Jason. Do you have anything else you want to throw out?
Now I'm good. I'll see you in the real world. Yeah.
All right. I'll see you in like a day or two.